Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John stays in a hiking lodge with strangers and tells us why some things are better off being dirty. Meanwhile, I have a mishap while trimming my goatee and reveal the pecking order of entertainers. Plus a conversation about self-talk and why your words may matter more than you think. Today's episode is not sponsored by garage sales when you really want to waste a Saturday in your driveway to make $43. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Johnny, another installment of Talk About That, man. We're back.
It's an install. Why do you think they're called installments?
I don't know. I mean, I wonder where in media that started.
Who's installing it?
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. Somebody coined that.
Yeah, it's an installment.
I wouldn't mind knowing
It's been put into a stall somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always enjoy the etymology of those types of phrases, even though they're not like ancient etymology, where we're talking about, again, how the Latin
Which is the study of bugs.
Right. The study of how bugs would speak.
As we all know.
In ancient times.
But we're back.
We're back. Hey, I'm going on a trip.
That's right.
I got a lot of trips this summer.
The Redneck Riviera is where you're headed, buddy.
Well,
actually, that'd be Myrtle Beach, probably.
Yeah, no.
You're going away classier.
We have a tournament in Foley, Alabama.
I've been to Foley.
Yeah. And it's right near Gulf Shores. And so we're going to go and
get a little Airbnb, stay a few extra days.
Going to stay a few days.
Do that thing.
Taking my mom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she'll get
Mama D's going.
Yeah, be near the ocean and
look at y'all.
Have a little seafood. Sadie's taking a friend. So, yeah, pretty excited about it. I'm going to be reading. I'm ashamed to say I haven't finished it, but it's Chernow's biography of George Washington, which I think is like 1,000 pages.
Read it on the beach?
Oh, yeah. This is like when I go on vacation, I pick it back up.
Okay.
And keep reading. So, I kind of know how the story ends, but...
yeah. So tell me this. Did you ever... I was thinking about this for Sadie's friend. Like, you're the dream. Like, if I was somebody like, hey, we invited... You get to go on vacation with your friend. Did you ever have a family like that you went on vacation with them?
Yeah.
That's wild.
We had like
I needed better friends.
Half the church would go to Gulf Shores. That's where we went.
Yeah.
They had the Gulf Shores plantation.
It was a big church trip, though, so it's...
But it was family.
Was it fun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. Lots of memories.
Man. I'm trying to think, like, I always said, like, even in my adult life, like, I don't want a boat. I just want, like, a friend with a boat.
Well, you don't want a truck. You like having a friend with a truck.
Having a friend with a truck is good. I want my dumb hatchback that gets 50 miles to the gallon, or I have an EV now that doesn't take any gas. But it's like, I need a truck like 3 times a year.
And that's when
That's when I call you. But you have like a little S10 vibe. It's not a big truck.
Whoa.
It's a little truck. Like if I want to haul, like...
But you're not comparing a 1996 Toyota T100 to an S10.
Well, it's
You can say it's a small truck, but just pick a better comparison.
Okay,
It's one of the best trucks ever made.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Well, you think an S10's a...
No, I had an S10.
Oh, okay, you didn't...
For a long time.
Chevy, not a sponsor?
Not a sponsor. But the Toyota, the T100, man.
Right.
It's a pre-Tundra.
It's a tank. It's a bulletproof. Yeah. I mean, not really. Please don't shoot at it.
No.
If you see John...
I'm not bulletproof, despite what the truck may look like, but it's in pretty good condition for, well, let's see, it'll be 30 years old.
You pride yourself on having old vehicles. Sometimes. Yeah.
Until, the truck requires it probably needs some maintenance.
Yeah.
But I just don't, and it just keeps going. I have this theory, and I'm not trying to stereotype women.
Okay? Man, you really got into it.
Just jumping right in.
Yeah.
But like my wife, there are some things in my life that if they're old or really dirty, you need to leave them alone.
Yeah.
Like you need to just kind of let it be. Don't go picking apart and trying to clean everything because it may be that it's being held together, not by the dirt. I know that's just a...
Right. There's something about that. Like...
Yeah. And so like our pool, we had our pool liner had the old one we moved in, it had the top part of it was like, it was old looking, but it had a different design.
Yeah.
And it had gotten really like kind of yellow, brown.
Sure.
And so my wife took a magic eraser I mean, the thing was 20 years old or more. Mm-hmm. And then guess what happened after she cleaned it all up?
It fell apart.
It started ripping.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, sometimes
something was in the...
you just got to leave it alone. Same thing with my truck. If I went right now and just changed the oil, who knows what would happen?
Yeah.
You just got to leave it be a little bit and just let it.
You see these old barns, you know, you drive out to the middle of nowhere and you see these old barns that like are falling apart and they don't push it there. It's almost dangerous the way they look. They're just like leaning on each.
I love those barns.
It's wild though. They are there. It's like a photo op, but it's like, it's just termites holding hands at this point. It's not even
Right.
wood.
Yeah.
It's beyond dilapidated.
You know, Mount Juliet has, like, over there at the new place across the interstate, if you look where they've cleared where the BJ's is, next door, I mean, all over Mount Juliet and Wilson County, there's these, like, cabins, or they're probably not cabins, they were someone's house.
Yeah, old cottage.
From the we were a pretty historic area.
Are these people that didn't sell? So there's
I'm thinking like they're literally settlers built them. Like,
but I'm saying like, so they're still there in the middle of this development?
That's the thing.
They held out.
Probably, no, there's no one living in them.
Oh, I see.
They're dilapidated someone from the 1820s lived in it.
Right.
And they never tore it down. So it's a log structure.
Right.
That you could go look at what people lived like in those days. And then it just was never torn down. And then probably a lot of it has some historical preservation at this point. So they may not be tearing it down when they buy the area. But I mean, we have a church, that little white church in the corner is from the 1840s. I mean, there's old stuff around here. But often if you just look out in the woods, you can find old structures and stuff from where someone moved here in the 18...
A lot of people would say, I am an old structure.
Well, you know.
That's the thing. When you go on a trip, like I have a trip coming up in Pigeon Forge where I'm doing like Women of Joy 2 different weeks in October. And then I'm doing like this other conference that's in that same place. And it's called like Celebrators.
Women of Pain.
Women of
Depression.
And no, it's called Celebrators Conference. It's actually a seniors 55 plus conference. So Mark Lowry's at that one. So I'll get to actually work with Mark Lowry.
Well, there you go.
Which is going to be such a thrill.
Yeah.
He's like the OG stand-up comedy in churches guy. So it'll be cool to meet him. And I think I've met him once, but it'll be cool as I be like, hey, because I think he's in his 70s now, maybe. At least. I don't want to date Mark Lowry if he's not that old. But anyway, I'm there for like 3 different events. So I was like,
by the way, you know who wouldn't know how old he is?
Who?
Mary.
Come on now.
She didn't know nothing, apparently. Go ahead.
Evidently not. That's a deep cut, that one. Anyway, so I'm there for all those events. So I was like, let's just get a cabin. You know?
Did you say it like that?
Let's just get ourselves a cabin. These cabins aren't cheap, John.
No.
And I found myself like being a cabin, like, what do I want in a cabin? You want it to look like a cabin, but I want the amenities of home.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask you. When you choose something, like, are you looking for, I want it to have like knotty pine walls, but I also want Wi-Fi.
Absolutely.
I want quartz countertops and a gabled
If I'm traveling
roof.
With my wife,
yeah.
Again, her idea of
glamping.
Camping,
it's like glamping, right?
She says it's a hotel without room service.
Okay,
like that's,
so it's like even way
it's
more
up there. So like when we went on that hike with Andrew for his 50th, you know?
Yeah.
Like, man, we slept in shelters.
Oh, right. And you have to like reserve your spot and all that.
Like I remember I slept next to a stranger.
Oh, no.
On just like a piece of wood.
No way.
And it
That's like somebody's murder story.
It was Andrew loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, this is...
Well, I think also like that idea of it's very romanticized in his head of like, we had to reserve this and we're out there and these people are climbing Mount LeConte too and all that.
Yeah.
Did y'all climb the whole thing? Y'all went all the way to the...
Yeah.
It's a big deal. That's like it's like a thing people do. It's like their bucket list.
Yeah, we did. And, you know, there's a big, sorry, Andrew, I know you're going to listen. The lodge, LeConte Lodge, there's no electricity up there, but they had but you could order like sack lunches from there. They had like a little thing and somebody ate up there. Yeah.
Is there a caretaker that's making sure that the guy that you slept next to didn't murder you?
No,
he's checking on you.
This is a different shelter. This is a shelter on the trail on the way, just an AT trail.
It's all honor system? But you have to reserve your space there.
You do.
Because it gets filled up just like it gets full just like a hotel would, even though it's not a hotel at all.
And the people who kind of like are often on the AT, you have through hikers and you have day hikers.
They're not bathers.
The through hikers, they're not happy with the day hikers.
Oh, I see. So it's like
if you show up and take their spot, because I think it can get overbooked. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's like sharks and jets. I mean, it's a whole thing. Yeah. That's also...
That is interesting, though, that they would have like a pecking order even among... Like, I get it. It's true of everything. Even comedians, we have like a pecking order. Like, I'm somewhere on the pecking order because I use a guitar in my show. So there are people who think that I'm like a prop act.
Right.
And like... But I think I'm above puppets or whatever. And then if you do magic, get out of here or whatever.
I'm above puppets.
But like everybody has that thing that they think like, well, I'm doing real. To me, it doesn't matter. Like I come from a tradition of what I grew up thinking was comedy. Is if you can get a laugh, you're pretty good with me. Like I like variety show. Like I like all the way from the Marx Brothers all the way down to Henny Youngman, and like I like just if you can get a laugh, you're good with me. Honestly, so I'm not a huge comedy snob. So when I started doing comedy, I was already in bands, and I was like, I'll do music and stuff. But there is a pecking order among, like I'm aware of it, even if I don't subscribe to those beliefs. Like when I walk into a room, I know that I'm being viewed a little bit differently. Even working in churches, sometimes comics who are in clubs are like, oh, you're a church guy? Like they are already kind of, they're putting me in a little bit of a pocket, and that's whatever. That's okay.
It's certainly that way in the pastor world for denominations.
Yeah.
Like I can remember...
They're boiling you down.
One time I was at a meeting. I'd written the book proposal. It was a major book that came out at Lifeway.
Yeah.
And so somehow I ended up at the executive board table of Lifeway with my agent, the president of Lifeway at the time, he's a pretty famous author. Like it's a huge table. Mm-hmm. And the authors that I was helping to write for were pretty well known.
Name him, John. Name and shit.
Not going to do it.
Okay.
And I remember like they were like, we're going to go around the table, and everyone introduced themselves. I was like,
wow.
Oh no,
yeah.
Like that's the
you're like, your credentials aren't up to snuff.
And so I was like, because at that point we had not disaffiliated from our denomination, and so I didn't want to lie.
Yeah.
And just say non-denom, which also gets its own pecking order thing.
Right.
They're like, oh,
yeah, because you can imagine like some wild church that doesn't want any covering, doesn't want any accountability.
Right.
We're non-denom. You're like, what does that mean?
Yeah. And so like...
Sometimes it just means you're a Baptist church with a nice website. That's what Tim Hawkins uses. You're just a Baptist church with a good website.
Well, and we hadn't changed our name yet.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't bring myself to say the name. Like we had a campus name. Uh-huh. Remember that?
Yeah.
We were the Life Campus for a minute because we had multiple things happening, you know? So
right.
I was like, I sounded like a complete bubbling idiot. First I was like, well...
Bubbling?
Bumbling.
Oh, bubbling. Yeah. I think you said bubbling.
I was bubbling too.
You were babbling and bumbling.
Babbling and bumbling, stumbling. And like I skipped it. I just said, I just did my writer's spiel.
Yeah.
And my agent was like, oh, but John, make sure you tell him the other thing that you do. I was like, oh, Robert, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm an executive. Life camp. Where? What is that?
The Life Campus.
Like,
is it a cult?
Non-denominational. Where is it? Mount Juliet. It's small.
Take this personality quiz. You're like, this feels like Scientology.
What are you doing? It was very, And then, by the way, I didn't get the book. So.
You had two, that's the thing. Do you think that you went into it with that and they were like, this guy feels, he's like a little,
this guy,
he's like being evasive.
I don't know. I think I've covered better than I'm telling the story now. Yeah. But actually, I know why they get the book. It's because they hired an in-staff writer and they could save the money. So
these in-staff writers,
I tell you,
they're the day hikers of the author world. That's is right. What I've always heard.
I'm more of a through writer kind of guy.
I reserve my spot months ahead, and I don't shave my beard. I saw this. So there's this comedian I work with, Dan Whitehurst, who's so funny. Find Dan Whitehurst. Find clips of him. He's a great storyteller, amazing comedian, local to Nashville here. And but he's changed his appearance a lot over the last few years, and because he was kind of clean shaven for years and years in his comedy career, and then I saw him the other day, and he looks like Santa Claus. It's like our buddy Roy Stone.
Yeah.
He's got the whitest beard. It's like David Letterman now.
Yeah.
When you see David Letterman, you're like, David Letterman just decided to go full Grizzly Adams. Well, so I asked Dan about it because it's fuller every time I see him. I'm like, because he opened a show for me. I had him come do a fundraiser show for me. I go, you want to come do time on this? Like, you're not an opener, but come do it. And he goes, I'd love to. So he came down to Lenore City and did this fundraiser with me. And the beard is getting so big now. And I go, Dan, we got to talk about this beard. Like, it's so big now. It's like, I can't see your face. Like, it's so, it's distracting to me. And he was like, I'm just trying to grow it I've heard that 3 years is when it stops growing. And I've never heard this. Have you heard this?
No.
Like natural growth, eventually it just starts getting split ends and it gets unkempt, and you just have to decide to like trim it off, or you're just cutting off the dead ends, but it's not growing any longer. As far as like growing to the floor.
Yeah.
He goes, so 3 years is like how much growth. Now, I don't know if it's true, but that's what he thought. So he goes, I'm just going to give it 3. So I don't know what year he's on, but it's like counting the rings of a tree or whatever. But like he's into it, this beard stuff. But dude, what a funny guy. But I just wonder about that. Like the other day I was trimming my goatee and I realized I'd cut way too much. It's like one of those like, oh no.
You went too far.
I went too far. I used the wrong guard, and now I'm like, here we go. Do I just decide today's going to be like, let's just see what Johnny's chin
Johnny
looks
still have
like?
a chin under there or not? Yeah.
And I could see enough at that length. I was like, it was okay. I was like, I could live, but I was like, this is going to startle my wife. Just this. She never, you know what, to her credit, she didn't even mention it.
Wow.
She never brought it up. She wasn't like, what are you
She's
doing?
like, I haven't looked at Johnny's face in a long
What
time.
is your face doing now?
Yeah.
But I decided no, and I've let it grow. So now it's been a couple weeks, and it's back to livable.
I noticed.
You did?
I did. I thought, hey, really cut that thing short this time. I didn't say anything.
I cut it. Yeah.
I didn't say anything.
And this would have been a good time because I'm a little slow right now as far as being on the road, and I could like still get it back in time for shows. Yeah. I wanted to like experiment with what is my face right now.
What is my face really?
But anyway, all that back, it's a long way to say like some of these hikers, they're unkempt. They like to look a little grizzled. Like the beards are full. We're in a full-on beard era of American culture right now.
Yeah. Mine, if I start to get, in fact, right now would be as long as my wife would be comfortable with. She's like, you need to trim that.
Yeah.
Like if I really let it go.
She'll have it. I just don't like it when it's all different lengths. If it's all one length and you're like keeping it up and it looks like something, but you're shaping it.
Mine, like, you remember this in college, like I can grow a really thick, I mean, if it was only on top of my head, it'd be unbelievable. But like a really thick, like I can hide quarters and stuff in there. Like the beard is very,
weird thing to,
like it's, well, yeah, where else are you going to keep your quarters?
Where are you going to keep your quarters? Yeah, Pockets?
Speaking of quarters, Johnny.
It'd be interesting if this was the ad was
for
like of our beard trimmer or something. We'll have to just see. John, let's take a minute and hear from a few of our fine sponsors.
I'm weirded out by the idea of beard oil.
Really?
Yeah.
I am too, because I just don't like the like putting creams and lotions and oils in my next to my face. It just feels whatever. This is why I'll be a really grizzled old man, because I don't moisturize. We need a regimen. Yeah. Just like women, we need a regimen. Why don't we have a regimen? You know?
I don't know. How many times can you say regimen in a row?
We need it, but we don't, because we're like, I can't be all putting creams and things on my face. And that's why, but beard oil is a thing, because here's the reason I know. When I did my dry bar taping, they did that to my goatee. They were just like, let's put some of this on there, and it kind of keeps all your weird flyaways in check. You look good for the camera.
Interesting. Look, all I do is make sure my head doesn't shine, Johnny. That's
what I do when somebody's putting makeup on me for a taping. I always just say, just make me look like I've had a good night's sleep, because I get the bags under the eyes, and so I'm just like, just make me look like I'm not 102 under the eyes, because that's where you look tired or whatever. And so but I am tired.
Paint me like one of your French girls. Yes, is what you say.
Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah,
it makes the eyes. Some guys do like eyeshadow because it makes their eyes like pop when they're doing facial expressions. But if you never wear makeup in real life, and then you see somebody's comedy taping, and then they see like you got the raccoon thing, you go, well, this is all. You
would have to show me your credentials before I let you come at me with makeup.
It's a lot.
Something like, look, you're going to have to tell me. I have to know you know what you're doing, because
they just want to make you not shine on the thing.
Yeah. They want you to shine as an artist, not.
And that's hard enough out there in the real world,
isn't it? Though. Hey, Johnny, it's about that time.
Oh, okay.
It's my quote of the week segment we call "They Talked About That." Thomas Watson. He is a 1620 to 1686 English Puritan theologian.
He only lived 46 years?
1620 to 1686. So
1686. Okay, 66 years. That's a decent life for a Puritan.
Yeah. And this reminds me a little bit of, if you haven't read Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund.
What's the difference between a Puritan and a Quaker, by the way?
A lot of big differences.
Is there?
Quakers
did they have the hats with the buckles and all that too? I'm lumping them in. It's almost like Mennonites and Amish get lumped in.
I don't know if I could tell you about the fashion differences.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So Dane Ortland.
Anyway, he wrote a book called Gentle and Lowly, and he really leans into the Puritan theologians. And I think when we hear Puritans, we think Pilgrims or something, right? We think...
Yeah, or like overly legalistic...
Right.
Yeah.
And really, if you get into their theology, it's some of the most grace-based
interesting.
Thought processes ever. And Gentle and Lowly is an amazing book if you haven't read it. But so Thomas Watson said, the Lord Jesus has as great and as large an interest in the weakest saints as he has in the strongest. He has the interest of a friend, the interest of a father, and the interest of a head, and the interest of a husband. And therefore, though saints be weak, yea, though they be very weak, he overlooks their weakness and keeps a fixed eye upon their graces. And this goes in, and Ortland talks about that. I forget which one of the other theologians talks about it, but I said it in a message the other day to the church. Like, we see our weaknesses, and if I'm going to use the word sin here, as something that God just hates. Like, he's just like, oh, this guy again. How many times am I going to have to... And I'm not saying there's not punishment for sin or consequences for sin, but in Christ, the idea is that punishment's been paid. And so the Puritans really thought that God sees those as maladies, as sickness, as something like as if your kid had a fever.
Yeah.
And so what does a parent do? They rush to their aid. They're not looking to hurt or be disappointed in you, but that we see sin because of its choice, especially when we make the bad choices. And I think that if I said that, if I read this in more like, common modern vernacular English, I said the same sentiment, I could be accused of being like a person soft on sin, right? Yeah. So when you realize like, oh, this is from the 1600s.
Right.
Then we recognize maybe we're off the path a little bit of our understanding of grace, that he has just as much of an interest in the weakest saints as he does the strongest. Like, and it speaks to, I think, maybe pecking order is the right sort of theme of the episode a little bit, but it speaks to sort of our thought of, well, some people need God's grace more than others. Like, yes, I struggle with saying a wordy dirty, and I watch something I shouldn't watch, but I'm not like that guy on death row who did this and that. And I'm not, you'll never hear me say theologically, as it's often stated, all sins are the same in God's eyes. I don't believe that. I just think all sins make you equally in need of grace. Mm-hmm. That all sins make you dead. It doesn't really matter how you got there. But yes, one can be a more gruesome process and can hurt other people and all those things. Certainly God lists things that he hates as sin more than others, the chief above all of them being pride, which I think is an interesting reflection of what the real reason is why we think other people need grace more than us, happens to deal with the greatest sin, which is pride, which is the sin that took down Lucifer and takes us down today.
Well, it's the thing that makes things like pecking orders.
Right.
Pride is what sets that up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing bad, but I'm not doing as bad as that guy. Or I'm doing okay, but I wish I was like that guy. Like, all of that comes from this place of like, the whole system's broken when you start thinking that way.
Yeah, and all of that is thinking that there is some way to have status that is based upon merit. Mm-hmm. As opposed to realizing that your status is based upon grace and sacrifice, because no one can achieve, right, compared to God's achievement.
Yeah, there was somebody telling a story one time at a funeral. I can't remember if it's from a movie that I saw or if this is a real experience, but somebody was telling a story about somebody's competitive nature. And they were meaning it as playful, but they said, we were at a cabin, we were on a trip one time, and we're with the youth group or we're with friends, and we're just bored, and we're throwing like things in the waste paper basket, wadded up paper, and then we're just all having fun, just doing it. But it wasn't enough for this guy who had died. He goes, he wanted to set up immediately a point system. If you stand over here, it's worth 4. If you stand over here, it's worth 5. all of that. Like he wanted winners, losers. He needed there to be status. And I think that's very human.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that same level of it.
Right.
Like everybody talks about, I'm more competitive, I'm more this, I'm more that. You kind of know it about yourself, or you don't, or you say, I'm not very competitive, or whatever. I just like to me, like with comedy, I really do believe I do it for the fun of it. There is a time where I go, well, I do think like I felt disrespected before for like, well, I'm being put on this lineup for this, and I should have got this, or should I take this because this is beneath me now, or whatever. Like that happens sometimes, but for the most part, like I really enjoy for the sake of it doing it. And there are people who are like come at comedy late in life, and they've been sports stars or they've been whatever, and they're used to like winning. So they wanted to be the best at comedy.
Yeah.
They think you can be the best at it.
Right.
And you go, well, it's an art form. It's a little bit different. It's a craft. You can be good at it. You can definitely be better than you were today. You can be better tomorrow. But it's not a thing where it's like when you see these contests where it's like, I won a comedy thing. And you're like, well, what does that even mean? Like laughter is so subjective anyway. But all that said, I think it is interesting our need to do that, to establish a point system like, you're saved, but I'm real saved.
Yeah.
You're close to God, but I'm the closest to God.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. It's really what, I mean, Cain and Abel, I mean, all the way back to there, right? That there's God accepted his sacrifice, not mine.
Yeah.
And there has to be retribution for that. And I'm not responsible for others. And there's just, I don't know, there's something in that. But the idea that, there was something in our Lectio 365 app this week, and they were quoting from Hebrews, where it talks about, without faith it's impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And I like to run, and then I walk and pray for a while by this beautiful area here near our house and by a lake. And I really had to, like, where I'm struggling right now, I think, which is crazy because I've struggled here my whole life, and I come and go out of it. And I think this is the hard part of living out the gospel. It's not just doing everything right and getting away from all the sin. It's that the person leading the prayer in the app was very much like, God, it's basically like I take a moment to acknowledge where you're pleased with me.
Yeah.
Because of faith. You're pleased with me. And I can't really say it. Like I couldn't in that moment say, I was like, I had to get real honest. I was like, God, I don't have a natural default where I stop and think, man, God must really be pleased with me. Because I'm still so condemned. I'm still so feeling that your interest in me is different because of my weakness. I don't think that you're against me. I think your love is unconditional, but it's almost like the love you have to have because you're God.
Right.
Not a choice, not an affection, right?
It's tinged with disappointment.
Yeah.
It's tinged with all those things, but it's like, well, hopefully he'll do better tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, if I see myself like, again, I love how he says this, all the stuff, the friend, the father, the head, the husband, all the things. Like, if I, in that moment, if his interest is that of a father and I'm his son, and I've decided today, I've taken this hour-long exercise / walk, and I'm trying to talk to him or trying to be closer to him. That's an expression of faith, right? But I can't find any. I can't think he's pleased because, and not even because I think I don't pray right or whatever. Like I'll just think, yeah, but I know where I'm screwing up or where I'm not where I should be or where I'm not trusting or where I'm not. And it's crazy because I forget who said this. One of the staff said at the table this week during one of our devotions. And the younger staff will look to me because, John, I think you said this, and they'll put it in their own words. Mm-hmm. But I always tell the whole church, like, guys, if you're worried about having more faith, that anytime people ask Jesus that, he generally just said, yeah, you don't really need that. All you need is just this tiniest of every, like, if you can just come up with this one mustard seed,
right,
I'll do the rest. He never said, well, he would acknowledge great faith, right? This guy's great faith is a centurion who's the Gentile because he thinks I could just speak and his servant will be healed or whatever. He acknowledged it, or you of little faith, but it was still enough. Mm-hmm. Like, Peter still walked on the water with a little faith. It didn't take much. Yeah. And I think for whatever reason, I'm really struggling. This really spoke to me like, hey, and I hope it speaks to you guys. Like, God, it's not that God overlooks your weakness because your weaknesses don't deserve punishment. It's that the gospel is the idea that that punishment's been doled out to those of us by faith who choose to come. And I think about even the Passover, right? Who just choose to come into the house where the blood of Christ is over the doorposts. I mean, that was it. That was the faith action. It wasn't that they were pure. Right. It's that they came under the purity, right? And so that the things could pass over them. That it's more than just retribution. It's more than just a legal status of somebody stood up and said, "You've been condemned, I'll take the punishment." It's way more than that. And the Puritans had helped us return to that there is an affection for it, that God longs for us, and that he is pleased by those who believe that he is, and he's a rewarder of those who seek him. Like he's involved in that in a personal way. So anyway, it's just encouragement for me today. But
that's good stuff, John.
Yeah.
I like it. John, let's do my segments, installments, if you will.
Installments.
John, let's do the first one. We call it Johnny's Old Jokes. We call it Joke About That. John, 2 cannonballs.
I'm already
got married this morning, and I hear they're already expecting babies. I don't know why I like that one. I've never heard that before.
That's good.
I told my doctor I could only hear buzzing. He said, "Don't worry, it's just a bug going around." John, my wife, finally, my wife screamed, "You haven't heard a word I've said, have you?" I said, "What a weird place to start a conversation."
Guys, because he hadn't heard a word.
John, let's do This Week in History. We call it Talk About Then. John, Wild Bill Hickok was born this week, 1837. James Butler Hickok. I don't know how Wild Bill came from that. James Butler, but it's one of those. James is one of those names. You could be John, you could be Jake, you could be.
But Bill?
Wild Bill?
Wild Bill.
I don't know. Wild James. Wild James doesn't have the same.
I know a little bit about Wild Bill Hickok, and it is a crazy. His story's crazy.
It is wild, and he deserved. I don't know about the bill, but he deserved the wild for sure. He was an American frontiersman, John, U.S. Marshal, and famous citizen of Deadwood, South Dakota. Which, if you live in Deadwood, South Dakota, you're a tough son of a gun.
Yeah,
that's one of those towns. You live there.
Oh,
come on now. He was shot in the back of the head. I feel like that was a weird pause. Sorry. He was shot in the back of the head. Did you know this, that he died this way? Shot in the back of the head during a poker game while reportedly holding 2 pair black aces and black eights, since known as a dead man's hand. The man who shot him had lost heavily while playing poker with Hickok and others the previous day. So there's a little bit of a grudge happening here. And this is where the reason it makes the list is because I wanted to ask you this question. Hickok usually sat with his back to a wall so he could see the entrance, but when he joined the game, the only seat available was facing away from the door. He had asked another man to change seats with him, but was refused. And I wondered, because we know people like this who they want to sit with their back to the wall.
Any of my soldier
facing
friends
the entrance,
or
and they want to know. Are you choosy?
No.
Do you think about that? Or do you just feel like whichever seat I didn't take?
If I'm with someone who I know has that, I'll always let them have the seat to see.
Oh, okay.
If I
You're
can.
looking around your body language.
But for me, it's about like if I get there ahead of someone, I always go where I can see the door, just so they can see me. Yeah. But
yeah, there is something to it, and that's Wild Bill. He had a right to have his head on a swivel. He was.
Yeah. I haven't been in a lot of card games where death was on the table as an option, kind of thing. So perhaps I think if I was in his shoes or boots.
Well, he didn't say he had cheated. He just said he had lost heavily to this guy had lost heavily to Wild Bill, and he was mad. And so Wild Bill usually sat with his back to a wall.
Reminds me of Val Kilmer in Tombstone when he's, what was the guy's name? The guy he survived in the end is one of the bad guys. He somehow
we talked
survived.
about Tombstone last week.
And he was like, "How many hands is that, Doc? 19 in a row?" And he was like, "Maybe you would prefer a spelling contest."
That man.
Why Ike? No, it wasn't Ike. Was it Ike? I think it was Ike.
I don't know. But listen, that Doc Holliday.
Well, Ike, whatever do you mean?
He was something.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was as charming as Val Kilmer, though. In real life.
Wouldn't it be horrible if he was like
he's just drooling tobacco juice all the time.
He didn't really go to medical school.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the sad tale of Wild Bill shot in the back of the head. to reiterate, John, Bing Crosby recorded White Christmas this week in 1942. So they were trying to get it ready, I guess. Mid-May, late May, you're trying to get it ready. And I don't know if they had any idea what it was going to be, but do you know that the recording of White Christmas has sold over 50 million copies and is the world's best-selling single of all time? It only took 18 minutes to record and was recorded for Decca Records and featured the John Scott Trotter Orchestra and the Ken Darby Singers. This recording is the only single to top the U.S. charts 3 times, 1942, 1945, 1946. Again, it was recorded in 1942, so that was the first time it topped the charts, but it topped it 1945, 1946 as well. Crosby would also sing the song in movies like Holiday Inn and White Christmas. The song was written by Irving Berlin, who ironically was Jewish. The various versions of the song have sold over 100 million copies.
So it wasn't White Hanukkah.
No. So I guess he just knew, like, we're in America, this is going to be more, it's going to catch on, and I'm a businessman.
Not sure, that snow at Christmas I think that's what created sort of that allure of it for...
Yeah, that mythologizing of it. It's kind of like the American dream of home ownership was a thing that was kind of like, it was to sell houses, and so realtors...
It's a post-World War II thing.
Yeah, it's a very, like that, whatever that American dream was, the 40-hour work week, holding down a job and having...
White picket fence.
2.5 children.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Station wagon.
Yeah, the family truckster. But yeah, you're right. Bing Crosby kind of put that in our heads of like, well, it's a white Christmas. Now it's magical. It's a magical Christmas only if it snows.
Yeah.
And you're like, we live in Nevada.
Right.
It's not going to work out.
It's not going to happen. That's sand, sir.
Yeah. If it's a white Christmas here, something gone wrong.
Let me tell you. Run.
You've killed all the cacti.
Yeah.
John, the future president, Andrew Jackson, killed a man in a duel this week, 1806. Mm-hmm. Do you remember this story? Charles Dickinson was killed by future U.S. President Andrew Jackson. The dispute was over a horse race between Jackson and Dickinson. Again, gambling leads to some bad places. We got Wild Bill Hickok having to sit a certain way. He's got to keep his head on a swivel. Now you got this future president. But the dispute was over a horse race between Jackson and Dickinson's father-in-law, Joseph Irwin. Irwin's horse was unable to race, and according to the terms of the bet, Irwin was required to pay a forfeiture of $800. I don't know what that is in today's money, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
There was a disagreement about the payment that escalated into name-calling, which is where it starts.
Don't be name-calling Andrew
it's where
Jackson.
if you're me, it starts and ends with name-calling.
Yeah.
If I can't outwit you and just shame you with my words, that's where it's headed, and that's where it's going to end. If you go, let's fight outside, I go, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
Anyway, Jackson first of all, it started with name-calling, and then it was published in the local papers. So that's when you're naming and shaming in the public, which you talked about that before, where these papers were used as these weird propaganda machines against each other, which I think is kind of funny, and it's still happening, honestly. Finally, a duel was called to settle the dispute. Jackson, knowing that Dickinson was an expert marksman, again, why would you agree to the duel if you're like, I know this guy's a great shot, and I'm not? Just leave town.
Yeah.
But that's not what you did back then. He had a plot, so he had a little plan. So knowing that his opponent was an expert marksman, he chose to stand still, allowing Dickinson the first shot, hoping that in his haste he would miss. Well, it didn't happen. Jackson, standing sideways, was struck in the chest, inches from his heart, breaking several ribs. As per the dueling rules of the day, Dickinson then had to stand still while Jackson took aim and shot him in the chest. Dickinson bled to death, and Jackson carried the bullet in his chest for the rest of his life. Did you know this?
I did not know that part.
He carried the bullet.
Come
I guess
on.
it's just there's no surgery. Like it's safer to.
It's crazy he didn't have an infection and die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was Jackson. This is the wild part and why it makes the list. It was his third known duel.
Oh, yeah.
That is wild. That we're just like, let's just duel.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's around the time of Hamilton and Burr's duel. It was 1806, you said?
I'm glad we kind of evolved out of that, aren't you?
Well,
like we've had disagreements, but we've never thought, you know what, buddy?
If we did, I want us to both get to shoot at the same time. I don't want to stand there and hope that you're a worse shot
wait it
than
out,
me.
and then I guess they were both supposed to shoot at the same time, but he kind of played with he got around the parameters of saying like, I'll let him shoot, and then I'll have a fair shot at him.
But yeah, the dude has a bullet in his chest and cracked ribs, and he was still able to to hit the other guy.
That is a disadvantage.
Old Hickory, that guy.
That guy's, man, he's tough. Finally, John, born this week, 1930, actor, director, American icon, Clint Eastwood. He Oscar-winning director, American actor. Make My Day was one of his famous tropes from the Dirty Harry movies. Eastwood was elected mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California, 1986 to 1988. He's been in films like Fistful of Dollars, Man with No Name, Dirty Harry, of course, Unforgiven, which kind of brought back the sweeping westerns in the 90s. That was like one that was like, oh, maybe we can make money on a western again, because they'd kind of gone by the wayside. $1 Million Baby. And he went on to, he directed movies into his 90s, which is crazy. He's still, I think he directed a movie a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
His secret in I can't remember what movie it was. The Mule? Was there one called The Mule where anyway, there's a song in that from Toby Keith, and I was at a singer-songwriter show that they did at Zany's, where a lot of people who'd written like funny songs, but they were talking about Toby Keith writing Don't Let the Old Man In for that movie. And so that was something that either Clint Eastwood or his friend used to always say, like, how do you stay so vibrant in your 90s? And he said, I open up the door, or I close the door every night, and I just don't let the old man in. So basically it was just a mindset. I don't let the old man in. And so like Toby Keith was so inspired by that. He was like, I'm writing a song about that. I think it was Toby Keith, but anyway.
I'm working on it. Yeah. I really want.
Don't let the old man in.
Don't want us to joke like we're old. Again, there's that famous quote, it's not how old you are, it's how you are old. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
There is something to our words. Like we come up from a tradition where it was like so mystical, where it was like, don't speak death over me. Don't even admit that you're sick to people if you're sick. Don't say you have a cold, because now you've let death have a foothold. Yeah. So I think we got so afraid we went the other way with it. But I do think words have power, and you're right. The things you say to yourself, if you're constantly saying, God, I'm so stupid, like you're casting a spell over yourself, whether you like it or not.
My therapist told me the other day, we were talking about sports as well, because his son plays baseball and he has coached and stuff, and he said with the teenagers, he goes, the number one most important thing, this is probably good for another episode talk too, but the number one most important thing is their self-talk.
Yeah.
In fact, for you in life is your self-talk. And he said not till you're 15 or 16 do you probably even have a concept that you are doing self-talk. Your brain finally develops to a point that you can begin to pay attention to what it is, whether you're saying it out loud or not, that you're constantly telling yourself. Yeah. But that self-talk becomes a neuropathway, like it becomes a belief at some point, and often a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, if you keep saying I'm so stupid, right? I think it's more than just I feel dumb or whatever, but like if it's a true like bashing of your own ability or character. Right. And I told my daughter, I was like, honey, I realize now my self-talk, I don't know when this started, but especially if I get really overwhelmed, like I have 2 book projects right now that are probably going to be due by the same time. I'm getting a little overwhelmed. And when I'm in here working and I'm losing track, or I'm not focusing enough, it'll start to pressurize on me like, oh, that deadline. And I will say things like, hey, all right, you can do this. You got this. All right, I got this. But it's a you, even like a third person. Yeah. Which they say do that. In neurodiversity world, it's called body doubling, when it's like a task. Put someone near someone who struggles to get a task done. Just being near them, they'll start doing it just by your presence, usually. If you can just pick up one sock, they'll start putting everything else away. But I think that's almost like a body doubling idea as well, of speak to yourself the truth as if someone else was speaking it to you. Someone
who cares about you and likes you. Yeah. Don't speak about yourself as like a negative, taskmaster of yourself.
Say what you know your best friend would say, because that would be what you would believe if they were here. Yeah. Right? You still need the best friend to say it, but you can't be, Johnny, you can't be your own best friend. And isn't that really like our lives?
It really is.
Some of y'all need a best friend, and you ain't it.
John, let us be your best friend. And how could you do that? You could go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com. We'll be your best friend for over 350 episodes. Yeah, it's a lot. Maybe you're on that long car trip to Gulf Shores. Yeah. Or to Foley. Yeah. Which is just as nice.
Just as nice.
But you could listen to all those archived episodes. And if you want to kick in a few shekels, help us support the show, that'd be great. You can get ad-free content that way. Click on that upper right-hand link on the website. If you want to send us a note, go to hello@talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
Lots of shows for Jonnie W, JONNIEW.com. He's all over the country, guys. You go see him at a live show. He's got some zany shows if you're in Nashville or local.
July and August, some zany shows.
Yeah.
Me and some friends, and working out some new material. So those are always fun. It's kind of an intimate room, and get those tickets at my website.
Yeah. Hey, guys, thanks for the time you spent with us today. Let's do it again next week here on
Talk About That.